Hi everyone, in the last video we have worked on integration of Spring Boot REST APIs with React application. In this video we are going to discuss everything about Spring security. We'll see how we can log into the application. We'll write the backend APIs for login and register. Then we'll work on verifying the code from the email. Then we'll start on auth to authentication. So we are going to cover everything about the authentication in this video. So let's first see the demo of the application, then we'll start. So first, when we go to account page, here there will be two options. We can log in and sign up. Let's go with the sign up first. So here we need to give the details of the email. Let's say I'm giving some test user @gmail.com and then password. Let's fill it password. So when we click on sign up, it will add the user in the database and send a verification code on the email. That email has not delivered because we have just added a random email, but we got that verification code. So this is the email from where we have sent that verification code. So let's copy this verification code. First we'll put it some random code, then we'll try to verify. It will give the error message, the verification code you entered is incorrect or expired. Now let's put it the correct code and we'll click on verify. So yep, we got the message, email has successfully registered. Then let's go to this login. So now let's try to sign in. We are signed into the application. So this was one of the flow. Also we can sign in with Google. If someone has to sign in with Google, let's go to logout, and here we'll do continue with Gmail. Here we can choose the email address and then we can sign in on the application. So this is all about authentication that we are going to complete in this video. And in the next video that will also be available in few coming days, and in that we are going to work on adding the product into the cart. So this is something we are added this product and we can see it is added into the cart. Let's go and add some other products. So now we have two products in the cart. When we go to this cart, it will give the option we can increase the quantity, also we can delete that product. Now here we have to go to checkout. Also it will verify if that user is logged in or not. If it's not logged in, it will give a message here, login to checkout, a button. So here when we go to checkout, here we can see it is giving the delivery address is empty for this user. So let's try, let me log in the user which have valid address. So we have logged in to the system. In this, let's go and add some product. Okay, so we have added two products. Now we go to click on checkout. Now here we have an address, so it is showing the delivery address. Also we can make it selected, so we'll see in the next video if we can make it selected, selectable address, or also we can change it. Then here we can choose the option for the payment. Now for example, I'm going to here put it the credit card. Now let's add the credit card number. We are using Stripe payment gateway and this is the custom flow. So let's add a card number here. Okay, so this is the card number. Let's give the expiration date and CVS and security code. Pay now. So now we'll get a screen for the payment. Once we confirm that payment, it will place the order. Now we click on complete and here we go. It has confirmed the payment and it gives us the order ID. So this all things we are going to cover in the next video. In this video, mostly we'll cover the Spring security. So let's start it. Now we are going to add authentication in the project. So as you know, we are adding a Google authentication and the username password authentication. So we need to add some dependency in the project. Now here I'm adding some dependencies that we required in the project. So this dependency we'll use for the Spring Security. Others are to generate the JWT token. For the JWT token authentication, we need this dependency. And then we have one dependency to use the Google authentication, that is auth to client. Once we add these dependencies, let's first build this project. So the build is done now. Let's reload the project. So now here I'm going to add one package where we'll manage all the classes related to authentication. So let's add the package auth. In this folder we need some more folders like controller, config, services. So all the code that we required for the authentication, we'll keep that in this folder. So let's add one more package and we'll give it name config. And in the config we need a class. Let's give it web security config. And in the auth package, let's create one more package, and here we'll give it auth.controller. Let's change the name of this file, web security config. So in this class we'll use some annotations like configuration, because we are adding the configuration to this file, and also we need one more annotation, that is for enable the web security. Now because we are using Spring Security above 6 version, so here we don't need to use that extending the base classes. So here we can just create the beans because we have already added it as annotated it as enable web security, and it is because it's a configuration class. So here we can just create the beans that we required, that we have to override it. So let's say the bean that we need is security filter chain. So here will tell us which now in this bean, in this method, basically we'll get the HTTP security parameter here. So in the security filter chain, basically we'll define the request that we need to permit it and the request that we need to authenticate it, and also we'll define here the filters in this method. Like here we can do HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. I'm going to add the basic configuration that we require, authorize dot any request dot authenticated, and then let's give it here return HTTP dot build. So this is the security filter chain. that we have added. Let's just run this application. So let's test this API that we have for API products. I just want to show you, like here we are getting 403 forbidden. Because this we have added this Spring security, all these endpoints now are secured by default. So we have to make it enable in the secure config. So some of the URLs like getting all products or get product by ID or getting the categories, that we need to allow it to access it public. So if we go to this application, some of the things like the pages that can be publicly accessible without doing the login. So now here we'll allow some of the patterns. To allow that patterns, what we have to do here, we have to use request matchers. So the first request matchers that we needed, like API products, then we need API category, dot permit all. Also we can set it here the method that we want to allow, like we only want to allow the get requests. So let's add here http method dot get. Also currently the Swagger that we have added in our application, that also not accessible. Let's add the patterns for Swagger also. Okay, so we added two type of request patterns that we need to allow it. One is for API products and API category, and another is Swagger. Now let's restart this application. So now here if we test this API, we'll be able to get the products now. And also let's just check it in the application in the UI. So now if we go to this category, we can able to see that products. So now when we add this product, right, and when we go to the cart page, then some of the URLs like placing the order, check out the cart. So for that URLs we need to make it secure on the backend. So for that we need to add the authentication, and also to place the order and for checking the account profile we need some URL, and also we need authentication in the application. Now to start with username and password authentication, let's first add the entities that we required. In the auth package, going to add one more package let's call it entities, and here let's add some classes like user. Now this user class will implement user details. User detail is the interface from Spring Security. So it will have the methods like get password, username, authorities. So let's just add it here. And now here we are going to add some fields that we required in the user entity. Let's first annotate this class. So these are the annotations. Here we are giving the table name, entity, and these are for the Lombok, and these are for the Lombok annotations. And let's give it here ID, generated value, private UUID, ID, and like we need private string first name, private string last name. So let's all the fields that we require. So here like we need password created on. So added here some of the fields that we required in this user table: first name, last name, password, created on, updated on, email. So email will be unique. Phone number, let's remove the phone number because we are going to use email as in the place of username. And now here let's add one more table, and we'll give it name authority. And this authority table will implement granted authority. And let's add here the columns that we require: ID, generated value, private, UUID, ID, private, string, roll code, private string, role description, so this is the authority table. So all that roles code and description will store in the authority table. And now this user table, right, we need to create a relationship between the user and authority table. For adding the relation between user and authority, here we'll add one more table. Basically we'll join the table and join columns between the user and authority table. So let's give it here many to many relationship, and we'll give cascade type dot all, and fetch type dot eager. Here we'll give private list authority and authorities. Also let's add here join table. So in the earlier entities we have joined the columns. Now here we are basically joining the virtual table between these two entities. So for this, here we'll give the name of table, auth user authority, join columns, here we'll say reference column name ID. Here let's give the inverse join column at join column, and in that table also we have column basically the reference column name ID. So now what we did here, we created one virtual table, basically we joined the table between these two entities. So this user ID and the authority ID, this will be stored in another table that we give it name as auth user authority. So the method that we are overriding, now here we have to return the values. Like for this we return this dot password, and here we'll return this dot email. And let's return here authorities. So these are the two entities that will be used for the authentication. Now let's go back to the config class for the web security configure. Now here we need to add some more beans. Basically we are going to define the authentication manager password encoder. So let's first add a bean for password encoder. Public password encoder, and password encoder. Here we return password encoder factories. So it will pick the password encoder that will be best suitable for this application. Public Authentication Manager. Here we'll do DAO Authentication Provider. Now here in this Authentication Manager, we'll define our user service class. That user service detail class basically load the username detail, and also we define here the password encoder that we are using in the application to encode the passwords. So for adding the configurations for defining the user service and password encoder in the authentication provider, let's first add the service. Now here we need to create one service class. Let's give it the package name services, and in this services class, let's give it custom user detail service, and let's implement this with user detail service. So now this method will be used for checking the user in the from the database. So first let's add one repository also. Here we'll give user detail repository, and we need to create an interface, and this one will extend JPA repository user long, and let's give this as repository. Now here we will do auto void private user detail repository. So from the user detail repository, we'll check the user by an email. So let's check user equal to user detail repository find by email, and let's pass the username in this method. Even though we are passing the username, but we need to call the method find by email because we are using email for the username. So let's add this in the repository here. Okay. Now here we'll check if null equal to user, then we'll return an exception, username not found exception, and here we'll return user. Now it is returning user detail, but user is a method that has implemented the user details. So here we can return it simply the user object that here. Now let's go to that web security config. Here we'll auto void private user detail service. Now let's use this in the DAO authentication provider dot set user detail service, and here we'll do the authentication provider dot set password encoder, and here we return new provider manager authentication manager. Now let's add a controller here. So we need one controller and we'll give it name auth controller. Let's annotate this as REST controller request mapping. So here we need to define multiple endpoints, but for now, because we need two endpoints, first one is login and another one is register. So here let's give it API/auth, and then we need to define here post mapping. So both of these URL will be on post. Use the post method because we need to send it the body along with that request. Here let's give it login public response entity, and here we need to define the response class, and let's give it login. Here we'll give request body. So let's add some of the classes that we required in the response and in the request body that we'll define in the DTOs. Here let's create one package DTO. So here in the login, when user will log in the UI, then we'll return one JWT token, right? JWT token. So here we need to return it class user token. So I here created one class for user token. Let's give it the another is for login request. And let's give this at here user token. Here we need private string token. Let's annotate this. In the login request, let's add a field private string username and private character sequence password. And let's look at this. So these are two classes basically for the login request. Now in the auth controller for login, here let's add try catch. Here we'll give authentication equal to username password authentication token dot unauthenticated login request dot get username and login request dot get password. This is just we created one authentication object using the username password authentication token class, and we give it unauthenticated. Now here we'll authenticate it, and here we'll do authentication response. Also the pane that we created, let's use it here. Authentication manager. Here we do this dot authentication manager dot authenticate, and let's pass this object authentication object. So if we'll get bad credential exception, we'll basically return and response entity and unauthorized. Also let's return it here also. Now here, once we get it authentication response, we'll check if authentication response dot is authenticated. If we'll pass any wrong username and password, then it will go to the catch block bad credential. Here it will return it unauthorized. So even though like it will be authenticated, but let's just check it here. If authentication response is authenticated, we'll ask here the user detail, authentication response dot get principal. Let's import this and we need to cast it. Now here for this user, right, we have added one field that is enabled. So by default this enabled will be false. So when we'll register any details in the form, and then once we get that request, so it will send the verification code on the email. So here we'll check if, let's say if user has not verified the email. So here we'll check if not user is enabled, then we'll return the unauthorized. Now here we'll generate JWT token, JWT token, and then once we get that token, let's say we'll go here string token equal to user token dot builder, and here we return so this is the method for the login. Also here we'll create one method for register. Let's give it the path as register. Now here public response entity. Now here we'll just return a registration response. Let's add some more details that we needed, like registration request, and registration response. So let's add the fields that we require: private string first name, so here only we need email, and here we need private cats password. Also we can add some more fields like phone number if we need it in the request. Let's add here private string first name, private string last name, phone number. And in the registration response we'll just return the code and message. This we need to put it in the registration request. Let's go back to controller. Here we return registration response. So this is just a basic flow diagram for the registration API. Now let's say if it's a mobile or browser application, first it will call the backend API for register any user. Then on the backend APIs it will do some processing and save the users on the database. Then the third step it will send the registration code on email and also send the response back to browser to display the confirmation code screen. Once user will pick the code from email and fill it in the form, then we will send the request to backend API to verify the code. Once that code verified, we'll update the user in the database and then we'll send the back response to the browser. The registration is successful. So this is how the registration flow will work. Now for the registration method here, for the registration request, let's add one here class. We'll give it basically service class that will give it names registration service. Let's give this as add service. So in the controller here in the method we'll go registration response equal to let's auto while registration service. Create user request. Let's add this user in the service here. Now first we'll check if the user is already exist with that email, so then we'll return the bad request. So let's add here user, existing user, let's give here auto while user detail repository. So if null is not equal to existing, that means that email is already exist in the database. So we'll simply return here registration response dot builder email already exists. Else here let's add try catch so else here we do user equal to new user. Here we'll set user dot set first name request dot get first name. So let's add it. Let's add all of the mapping here. So here added the fields that we needed to map. Now here we need to map the password also, but first we have to encode it also, that password. So for encoding the password, let's use here password encoder. User dot set password encoder dot encode request dot get password. And here we'll do user dot set provider. So we have added one field for the provider where we'll keep the name of provider like Google, Facebook, or anything. So here for the manual registration, we'll edit here manual. And also we need to set the verification code while we are doing registration, because in the user entity we have added a field verification code. So how now this verification will use at here we'll set it the verification code. So now to do that, for getting the code here, what we'll do here, let's call it string code. Now let's create one class here in the package helper. And here we'll add a class verification code generator. And in this class we'll give a method public static string generate code. Here we'll just generate the random code, the 6-digit code basically. So let's just put it here random random equal to new random, and let's put here int code equal to random dot next int. So let's just and then we'll return here string dot value of code. So this is our method to generate the 6-digit code. Okay, so let's call that class verification code generator dot generate code. So this will generate a 6-digit code, and then we'll set it into user object user dot set verification code, and here code. Even we can create a new table, but just to make it simple, because this is we're doing practice, so just to make it simple, I've added the verification code in the user entity itself. And now here, so now we are creating a new user, right? And this user will have some authorities. So to define the authorities here, now we have to add the authorities. So by default we'll assign only one authority, that is the role user. So let's so already we have defined the entity for authority. Let's create a service for the authorities class, and annotate this as let's annotate this as service. Now in this authority service class we'll define two methods. One is to get the authority. So here we'll call public authority get authority, or even we can call here get user authority, because most of time we'll use only this method. It will return a list of authority, and here we'll define list authorities equal to new array list, and let's call this authority Now here we need authority repository. Let's create an interface for the authority repository. And we need to annotate this as a repository extends JPA repository here we'll call authority repository find by role code and in this we'll pass the role code user. So now I'm just keeping it as a static role, that is user, doing the hard code user role. Even let's add this method a file by role code. So even in the DB, let me open the DB here. pgadmin v8. So in the DB I have added two roles basically. So let's just check the rows that we have added for the authority entity. Because this is connected to virtual database, so it is taking some time to open that. Now here in the auth user authority, let's call this, so at here in this table auth authority, let's call this to display all roles. So if you see here, we have added here the two role codes. One is user and admin. This we can insert it by the simple insert statements. So now here we'll return auth repository. First let's add that authorities dot add authority, and then we'll return authorities here. So this is the method that we call to get the authority list. And also if we want to create the authority method for creating the authority, and we can create it like this: authority string role string description. And here we'll do authority dot builder dot role code dot description, role description, and then dot build. And here we'll return authority repository dot save authority. Okay, so this is the two methods that we have added in the authority service. Now let's go back to the registration service. Here we'll call user dot set authorities. Now let's auto-write the authority repository here. Private authority repository. Let's auto-write here authority service. Now here we'll call authority dot get user authority. Now what we'll do here, we'll call user repository detail repository dot save user. Right, so this is the step that we did. We are saving it the users to the repository, but this user is not enabled yet, and we have to send the verification code to the email. So now we are going to set up the Java mail here. So for setting up the Java email, let's put it the command here. Here we'll write a logic to send mail. Okay, and here we'll return registration response dot builder dot code 200 dot message user created dot build, and in the catch block here, if we get any exception, here we'll simply just throw an exception, or even we can return the response with an code 500. So let's say return. Here we can just throw an exception. Okay, so this is the thing that we are doing in the registration service. Now here let's add the Java mail dependency. So this is the dependency for the starter mail Spring Boot. Let's build this application. So we have added the Spring Boot starter mail. Now to set up the mail in this project, we need basically some client, some SMTP provider which can send the email. So in this project we are using Gmail. So what we have to do, the Gmail that you are using, for example, we are using it here as a dummy email. So I just have created a one email for this project, that is showpiece.platform. Now we have to go to here, account settings, manage your Google account. So when you go to manage your Google account, to set up, to get the app password, first we have to do in the security two-step verification. So just make sure you have enabled the two-step verification. Once you're done with two-step verification, here we need to search it app password. So basically we need to create one app here, and it will give us our password. Let's sign it. So if you see here, like I do created a shop is a application, and here we can give it the app any app name, and then it will print the password that we can copy it. And then once we get that credentials, we have to go to back our application. Okay, and in the application properties, so let's open the application properties. Okay, now here for the mails, here we have to use basically we have to define the properties for the Spring Mail. Dot host equal to smtp.google.com. Let me copy and paste it here. So this all over the properties that we needed to define in the application properties. So here there is a spring.mail.username, from which this is the sender email, from which that email goes to the user, and then will have a password. That app password will pass it through VM arguments. So now once we do this, the another thing that we have to create it as service. So let's call this as service, email service. In the email service, we'll basically define a method to send the email. So let's So here let's add a auto-void a dependency. So the dependency that we needed, Java mail sender. So if you don't get that class names, what we can do, go to Maven and reload project. So it will resolve the dependency and then you will be able to see class names, Java mail sender and Java mail sender. Okay, so now here we need to put it the sender detail like private string sender, and that we can get it through value from the application properties. And let's put it string dot mail, the one that we have added in the application properties, string dot mail dot username. Now let's add a method here, public string send mail, and this will send user. Here we'll expect to send the user an argument. Okay, so I'm going to put here some content basically first. So this is the content that will send it on the email. Put it the content like this. Let's add here terminate the line. And let's put one more, and now we'll add here try catch block. Okay, so here we'll put simple mail message, new simple mail message. Then we'll set mail message dot set from. Here we'll put sender name, and then okay, so here we can just put it sender. Here we need to give it sender because we need an email address, and mail message dot set to user dot get email, mail message dot set subject or text, mail content, mail message dot set subject, and then we'll call Java mail sender dot send mail message. So this is the method for sending the email. Also we can make this method async, but to simply trying with the registration process, we are going to use it synchronously. And now let's go to add here registration service. We'll call, let's add the dependency auto-void. And here we'll put email service dot send mail. Here we'll send the user object. So this is for the registration of the user method. Now let's go back to the registration controller, that is the auth controller. Now at here we need to make some changes. So now once we get the registration response, so here there are two cases. Either we can get the 200 successful, or else we can get the 400, right? So Now we'll check here if registration response dot get code not equal to 400, or let's just check equal to 400, then we'll return here, return new response entity, registration response, or simply we can just returning like this here. Let's put it at here, and we can remove this, and let's check here, registration response dot get code equal no 200, give it http status dot ok, as we return http status dot bad request. So this is a method for the register API. Now here we have already created till here the user, right? So here we have created the, now we need to create here JWT token, but before the JWT token, let's add one more method here, one more endpoint that will give it post mapping verify the code that we need to verify it. So let's call this public response entity verify code. So in the verify code, here we'll get request body. Let's use a map here. We can also create a class request, but let's just go with creating the map. That will be easy. String and here map. Now here first we call string username. Here we'll get map dot get the map the keys, like for username, and then string code map dot get code. Now here we'll check if that user is, first we'll check if that user is exist or not. So let's call user detail. Let's add a dependency here, user detail service. User detail service load by username, and this is the username. And let's cast this to user. Now here we'll check if null is not equal to user, and user dot get verification code dot equals code. Then we'll call registration service dot verify user. Let's pass the username. And now at here we'll first check if that user, we'll first find the user. user detail repository dot find by email, and is this user name, and we'll set user dot set enabled true, and here we'll do user detail repository dot save user. Now back to the auth controller. At here, once we verified the user, where we'll give just return new response entity http status dot OK, and if there is any bad credentials or something, we'll set it here bad request. So this is the controller for the verification of the code. Now we have added 3 controllers in the authentication class auth controller. One is login and register and verification of the email code. So now let's first create one user in the database, and then we'll check if that user is getting the code or not. Once user get the code, we'll try to verify it, and then we'll basically create the credentials. So I will create the JWT, then we'll create the JWT token for that user. So I have added that property in the VM arguments at here in the edit. So the property that we need, mail password. Now let's start this application. Once this application comes up, let's create a request. So here we have auth and user folder. In the auth, I do created here a user request for the register, and let's give a valid email because it will send an email code on that email. So here let's try to give this email retrieval.app@gmail.com. So we are getting 403 forbidden because we have not excluded these calls from the web security config. So at here we are not allowing it. So here we are not excluding to make it public accessible. So let's add here request measure http method dot post, and let's give it API auth so it's dot permit all. Let's try this because most of all our APIs in this endpoint are the post endpoints. So yeah, let's try now. Okay, still we are getting 403 forbidden. So let's see how we can exclude this. Also, we can create a bean for web security customizer. Let's try to create here at bean public web security customizer. Basically it's not allowing it. It is permitting the get endpoints, but it's not allowing the post ones. So let's try with this web security customizer. Here we do return web dot ignoring dot request matchers. Let's create one array here, private final string public APIs. This is the endpoints that we have added here. Let's remove this from here, and now let's start this application. Let's try now. We do see it's inserting the user details, and it has inserted, and it is taking time to send the email. I think so, because it's not an asynchronous task. But let's verify if let's verify if we got that code for this email. So yeah, it has sent successfully that code to this email. So yeah, our registration API is working. Now we need to verify the code, right? So let's here add a request verified code. So we'll send the request body like this: username. In the username we'll send the email coderevel.app@gmail.com, and let's send the code. So let's first try sending some random code. So we do get 400 bad request error because the code is not the correct one. Now let's copy the correct code from here and let's put it in the code. Now here we do get 200 response. So this is working. The user has been verified. And now let's see, we'll try the request for the login. So in the login method here, we're already verifying if the user has correct username and password. Once it has been authenticated, what we are doing here, we have to generate a token here, but we are just sending the null response and giving it OK. So we can check it. Let's just quickly check this. So in the login, here we'll do login. Let's copy this request. We will go to login row. Password. So the password that we have set it while register. This is the password. Let's send some incorrect password. We got 401 because the password is not correct. And now when we are sending the correct password, yeah, it is working. We are getting 200 response, but the token is null here. So now we will work on adding the JWT token in the response when the user will log in. Once the user will get the JWT token, then it will ask the server to get the details for that token. So once we get the JWT token, we will call the API user info to get the user details. Now here let's create the classes that we required to generating the JWT token. Before starting to JWT token, let's see the flow diagram. So here the browser will send the login request to the server, and then server will fetch the that user detail from database. Now here we'll do some processing, username and password authentication basically. Then we'll generate authenticate and generate JWT token. Once we generate that token, we'll give back a response to the browser or mobile app that token, and with using that token we can call in the other APIs to get the response. Now I'm going to create some classes for the JWT token. So the things that we needed for creating the JWT token, first let's create a class JWT Authentication filter. So that will basically take every calls that coming into this application and it will check if the token is valid or not. So inside JWT token, here we'll extend this class. Let's extend this class once per request filter. And we need to implement the method. Okay, so now at here we'll call private final user detail service. This JWT authentication filter will basically add in the security config class, in the web security config class. So let's add a constructor here. Also we need one more class. Let's give it name JWT token helper. And let's annotate this as component. Also let's add one more variable here, private, one more field, private final JWT token helper. So this is we added in the constructor. Now at here we'll call string auth header. So all the requests that come to this application, first we'll check if the auth header is present or not. Request.get header, and let's give it here authorization. So here if the auth header is null, if null double equal to auth header, or not auth header dot starts with barrier. So the token that will send in the call, the JWT token, that will come along with barrier keyword in the starting of the token to identify it is a barrier token, and then filter chain, do filter request response. So if the request is not starting with this barrier token, then it will ask this filter chain to do filter the request, and then here we'll return it. Else, now here we'll check if that token is valid or not, because if we are getting that JWT token, right? So at here if some request which is which this application is allowing, right, in the web security config we have added some request that can be permit, so they can be permit and others will be blocked at here. Now in the try catch, here we'll check first string auth token. Now we'll call JWT token helper dot get token, and in this we'll send request. Let's add a method in the, and here let's just return it null for now. Later we'll implement this method, and let's go back to here in the JWT token. So now here if null is not equal to auth token. Okay, and here we'll check string username dot token helper dot get username from token, and here we'll let's add auth token. So now here we'll check if the username is present in the auth token. Now we need to calculate the username detail. So here let's check if null is not equal to username. This is we are checking because we'll identify from the token and the user details the user that will find from the database, and then we'll match if both the username is match the one that we are getting in the request or and that is in the DB. So because even the token will be issued with some username. So and here we'll check user details. We'll call user details service dot load user. Let's pass this username here. So here we are calculating username from the token, because for authorize the token here we need to find the user details, and then at here we'll call user name password authentication token, and let's give it authentication token equal to new username password authentication token, and let's set it authentication token dot set details new web authentication details, and here we'll do request. Now here security context folder dot get context dot set authentication token, and let's add here filter change dot filter. So this is the JWT authentication filter, and so we're getting this. Okay, so we have to set it here user details. Okay, so now let's go to JWT token helper. Here we'll use some of the methods, like let's first say to get the token from the request. Now this method I'm replacing with some code. So here we'll basically get the token. Now let's add this method, and this will return request.getHeader authorization. So using this method we are getting the token. Basically we are calling this method and getting the authorization header. From authorization header we are just taking the token after this keyword. Now here we'll add one more method that we'll call generate token, because that eventually we'll call to generate the token. Here we do need some more fields, that is basically app name, secret key, and expires in. This all parameters will define in the application properties. So let's here add a method public string generate token, and in this generate token we are supposed to get one username for which we need to issue that token. Here we do return jobs dot builder dot issuer. Here we need to pass app name, then subject, username, issue date, new date, expiration. Here we'll call method, let's say generate expiry date, and then sign with get sign in key, dot compact. So in this sign in key, we'll basically use here create, let's do byte, key bytes, decoders, dot base 64 dot decode, secret key, and then we'll do return keys, key bytes dot hmax key 4, and here we'll pass key bytes. So this is the method to getting the sign in key. So here we'll calculate the date which we need to set the expired date for the token. So that we'll calculate here. Let's just add this statement. The date that we're getting it the time, new date dot time plus expires in into 1000, and here we'll return auth header, get username from token. So let's add the code here. So let's create this method. So here we are getting all the claims from the token, and from claims we are calculating the subject, and that subject will return it the username here. So let's add this method to get all the claims. This is basically we can get it. Let's create here private claims, get all claims from token, and here we do string token. Let's put it here, claims try claims equal to JWT dot parser dot sign in key, get sign in key, build parse claims token, and here let's do get body. So this is the method for get all claims from token. Now here we'll add one more method, validate the token. Basically in the JWT authentication printer we have missed it here. We need to add one more condition to validate the token. So let's add that method here. So here we'll check date, expired date. So here let's calculate. Let's just send that the method that we have added, get expiration date. let me paste the code here. So this is for get expiration date. The same thing that we are doing for the calculating the username. First we are calculating the claims. From the claims that we get subject for the username, here we are getting the expiration date, and then we are returning that expiration date. So this is all the methods that we have added here. Now let's go back to the string JWT authentication filter, and let's add one condition here. If JWT token helper dot validate token, auth token, and user details. Reset it this. Now let's go to the web security config. At here we'll do some changes in the configuration. So here we'll add filter before. So let's add it here. Add filter before, and here we'll call new JWT token filter. JWT authentication filter, and here we'll pass JWT token helper and user detail service. So let's add a dependency auto void private here we'll pass username password authentication dot token dot class. So now here we'll pass user name password authentication filter dot class. Okay, so first parameter we need to send this, and second So this is for the JWT token authentication classes. We have added the JWT token helper and authentication filter, and also added in the configuration in the web security config. So now we need to add some keys here in the application.properties for the JWT. Now that we need to put it JWT Auth.app. Let's put it at here. This is for JWT, and here we'll pass the JWT key in the VM argument. Now let's test this application. So let me put it here, that key. One more thing we have to do is we need to set it the token. So let's add one more dependencies that we need it. JWT token helper, and let's call this here generate token user dot get email. So now let's start this application. Okay, so the application is started. Now let's try to hit the API for the login. This is username password. So now we are able to get the token. This is the JWT token. And now what we'll do, we'll add one more API that will consume this token and will give us the details that we needed. if we pass incorrect details here, it not supposed to give token. Yeah, it is giving 401 error. So yeah, this is the username and password authentication. We had created the APIs for login, registration, the code verification through an email, and also we are generating the JWT token. Now let's add one more controller here. We'll call it name user detail controller. Basically, we'll use the JWT token in this API or any of the API in the project, and we'll check how we can get the detail. So let's annotate this as REST controller cross region at request mapping. Let's give this API user. Also in the auth controller, let's give this as cause region because we need to catch this API from UI. And we can add this cause configuration in the web security config itself. That will change it later. So here in the user detail service, now here we'll call first let's add a dependency, private user detail service, and here we'll go give get mapping profile. So the API that will use API slash user slash profile, and let's give this public response entity. Get user profile. Now here in the get user profile in the method, so at here the parameters, the argument that we can use like principal. So with the principal we'll get the username. So here user user detail service dot load by username principal dot get name. So if null equal to user, will return simply here bad 401 error. Else we'll see here, let's create a class here in the DTO and we'll give it name user details DTO, and let's add here some of the fields that we needed. So I give it here ID, first name, last name, phone number, email, and authority list, and let's annotate this. Okay, so in the user detail controller, now here we'll basically map the fields. Let's call here user detail service. So this is I have added in mapping for that fields. Now here we'll return new response entity. Let's use this at here. HTTP status dot okay, and here we return unauthorized. Now let's restart this application. So let's add a API here for the user. So this is the API, get user info. Now let's call this API user profile. So currently we are not sending any header in the request, the authorization header. Let's see what it will give. It is giving 403 forbidden. Now let's log in through this credential. Now it gives us the barrier token. Now we need to use this barrier token. Let's first pass it here. So this barrier token, let's paste it at here. So now first we are passing the, let's just pass the wrong token and we'll send it request. We are getting 403 forbidden because that token is not correct one, the one that we have sent it. So it's giving 403 forbidden. Now let's try with some other, the same error. Now let's pass the correct one. So here we go, it is giving the details of that user. Okay, so yeah, so till now we have created the APIs for authentication with the username and password with the database, and also we are creating, and also we are generating the JWT token, and also we have added one API to get the user detail. Now we will use this user ID on many places, so this will be more important to get it on the UI side. So let's now switch to the UI. We'll add some pages on the UI for the login and sign up. Okay, so now these are two pages that we are going to build, and we'll have one more page that is where we'll verify the code. So the code that will get on email while the user is doing registration. And then once we're done with the integration of username and password, then we'll start working on the auth to authentication with Google provider. So now let's open the VS Code here. So the first thing that we have to do is, because the UI that we have is here, so once we click on this icon, the account section, so currently it is doing nothing, but when we click on it, either it has to go to the account detail page or it will redirect to the login page. So for that we need a different endpoints URL, the routes basically. So let's add that routes at here. Now the one element. So now the one object that we have added here. So we'll add one more object and let's give it path v1, and here we'll give the element. Now for this URLs, the routes that we have defined earlier at here, it is referring to shop application wrapper. So now we'll create one application wrapper, authentication application wrapper for the authentication pages. So let's add here that element in the pages. We need to create one here wrapper. Let's call it authentication wrapper. And here we'll create a React component, RACFE. Okay, so now this authentication wrapper will divide into the two parts like this. So first will be have a navigation bar, and then this will be divided into the two row. There will be a one row in which there will be two items. The first one is the image, that will be the fixed, and when we switch back to sign up page, these areas will only be changed, rest will be remain same on the page. So now the first thing that we required is the navigation here. So we have to modify the existing navigation. Let's put it navigation component. Now in this navigation component, we'll pass one prop, that let's call it prop variant, and in the variant let's pass it login, or we can pass it authentication. So basically this is let's pass it auth. This is basically to identify which navigation we have to load. If we are on the main application pages, then we'll load the default navigation. If we are on the authentication pages, then we'll switch back to the some navigation items that we required only on the login screens. So let's go back to this navigation component. Okay, so here we'll make some changes. So the this way would not be needed in the authentication pages. So here we'll add one condition. Let's add it here, variant. So here we're supposed to get one prop variant. By default this will be in default. So here we'll check if variant is equal to default, and so we don't need this one, the search bar. And now at here we'll add this condition inside the flags. So this is for the action items. We don't need these action items, so we'll create it here for our own, basically the two buttons that we required, login and sign up. So now let's put it here, variant equal to login or auth. Now let's put here the list. Let's give here the same class name, flex gap 8. Here let's give it list. So inside the list we'll give basically a nav link, navigation link. This will be login, and let's put the class name here. So there are some styles that we needed, like text black. Let me copy and put it here. So let me put it here, and one more link that we needed. So the first navigation link, we'll call it to v1.login, and here we'll set it v1 register. Register. Okay, and the same parameters that we were applying on the top. Let's use this for the navigation link. Okay, so in the authentication wrapper here, we are giving a navigation variant, and now let's use this authentication wrapper at here in the routes. We'll call this authentication wrapper. Now let's define children here. Now here in the children will be have an array of objects. So for example, let's suppose we have here path, login, element. Now in the pages folder, we'll create two more folder. The first one will give it login, and the another one register. Okay, let's give it here login.js. This is for the login, and let's create one file for register. Let's see, this is for register. Let's give it login. This is for register. And here let's give register. Now if we go to this browser, and here let's call v1 login. So we are getting this authentication wrapper. Let's go to the code. Okay, so here in the authentication wrapper we are not using any outlet in here. Let's call it outlet. Now we do see the navigation bar is coming at here in the login page. So this we haven't changed. Let's change this to name. Let's give this name sign up. Okay. When we click on sign up, we'll come on the register page. This is login. So now in the application wrapper page, we have to add one image on the left side, and the right side will be an. So here on the right side will be have, on the left side will be have a static image, and only will change the right hand side part. So now let's go back to the code. In the authentication folder, so in the authentication wrapper, let's put this inside div, and here we'll use class name flex. Inside this we'll put two more div, and here we'll call class name. So by default we'll set it the width to, let's say, 60%, and on the large devices let's set the width to 70%. By default on the mobile devices, if there is a mobile device, in when we'll set to hidden, and for medium we'll put it inline, and let's put padding of 2. Basically here for the medium devices we will display that image, and for the large devices we are just expanding the width to 70%, and then here we'll do get div outlet. So here we are getting to get the so here we do get the part for the login, and similar for register, and on this hand side we'll display the image. And if we display in a mobile, then we'll not display the image, we'll only display that login form and the register form. So now let's add that image to the assets folder. Now here we will go to assets, images, file explorer. So let me add that image. So I have added the image in the asset folder. So here in the assets we have added the background1.png icon. So we have added the image background1, and now at here let's import that image. So now to import the image we do import background image from assets, image. So this is the image. Now let's use this image at here, image source, and in class name let's add background cover, width full, background center, and let's give all. So now we can see this is the image that we are displaying it on the login page, and also on the sign up. When we go to sign up, there also we can see this image. So now at here in the outlet it will call the respective route URL like login or a site up. Now let's go to the login page, and now here in the login page we need to add few things like the text and icon for logging to the Google, and there will be some forms input. Okay, so let's here put the div, and we'll set this as class name. Let's give some padding, and let's define some width because all the fields, inputs and everything will be defined to display some width. So here we have added it like this, and now at here we need to give a paragraph, give it sign in, and here class name, text, cell, let's try with 3XL, and then at here we'll give font bold, let's give some padding bottom, and PT4. Okay, so this is the sign in or text. Now here we'll define the, so now here we'll give the button for the Google sign in. Now let's create one component. In the component let's create a folder and we'll give it buttons. So in the buttons component let's create a component, we'll give it name Google sign in .js RFC, and here we'll call that Google sign in. So here we'll create a button basically. So on click of this button, we'll redirect to the Google sign-in page. Let's give here button. Now for this button we need a Google logo icon also. Let's put that image at here. So this is the icon image that I have added in the images, and let's import that image. Google import Google logo from. Okay, so now here basically we'll give class name flex. Now we are going to put the text in the center and with an image, the Google image. So we'll give it flex justify center, items center, border, and we'll give it rounded. Let's give the border color border gray. And here we'll define some height. Let's give height 48 pixel, and on hover we'll give background select 50. Okay, so now here let's add that image, source Google logo, and here let's give a paragraph, continue with Google, and let's give here class name px. So let's give some padding of on x-axis 2, and text gray 500. Okay, and let's give it here width full. So this is the button for continue with Google. And now let's go back to the login page. Also let's here give some padding, or we can increase this padding to 8. Okay, so now here we have given the Google sign-in button. Now we'll give it here or option login with the username and password, class name text 500, item center, text center, width full, dy. Okay, so this is the OR option, and now let's give it here a div that will contain a form. So here we'll give input, and let's give it type email, name, username. Then here we need to give it a placeholder, email address, and here we'll put some class names like height and border. Let's put it like this, class name, so this is the email address input. Let's give it here width of full, Also add here in the div, let's give it class name, padding top 4. Okay, even we can increase the height if you want, like 380. And let's give it one more input here for the password, and this will be a password. Let's give it here required autocomplete new password. So these are the two inputs. Now let's give it one button here. Okay, so now let's give here a link and button. Link for the forgot password, and let's give it text forgot password, and here we'll give some class name like text write with full float right, and here let's give it underline, padding top of 2, then text gray, and on hover we'll give it text. Okay, so here we give the color hover text black. When we'll hover it, it will give the black color. Now let's add a button. For the button, let's give it sign in, and here we'll give class name. Let's give border width full, then rounded, height of 48 pixel, background black, then we need text white, margin top, and on hover let's get opacity 50. So this is the button. Now let's add here some states that we required in the login components, like username and password, and also if there is an error, we'll display the error or in the form. So let's add it through the state constant values, set values, use state, username, password. This is the state for defining the user's data, that is username and password, or the login credentials. And let's add a state for managing the errors. Set error, use state, also we do need here a dispatch. So dispatch is required when user will click on the sign in button, it will display a loader. So let's add here dispatch, use dispatch. Okay, and now let's here have one function on submit. The submit button will use for this form. And let's give here and here we need to define one on change handler, constant handle on change. Okay. So in the handle on change, first let's give it here event.persist. Then here we'll set the values, and then we'll set it here dot values, and here we'll check the name e.target dot name, here is at e.target dot value. Okay, so this handle on change will be used for both the inputs on change and also for the password. And also at here on submit we'll get an event, and here we'll say e.prevent default because we have to make an API call. So and here we'll print console.log values. So at here, when we'll enter any credentials like test@test.com, test123, once we do sign in, we'll get it here like username, password. So we are getting it blank. This is because let's check it in the call. So the name here is correct, username and password, but we are not mapping the values here. Let's map values dot username, and then value here, values dot password. Let's try now. Yeah, we are getting now the values in the on submit handler. So now here let's call let's call the API. Once we get the on submit call here, we'll call the API to check if that credentials are valid or not. If the credential is not valid, then we'll display an error. So let's create one file under the API folder, and we'll call it name authentication.js. Here we'll put it all the API functions like logins, register and verify code. Okay, so here let's add export constant login API async. Now in the login API here we'll call the method within one with the data body, and let's use here try catch. let's first create a URL, constant URL equal to base the API base URL. In the constants, this is the URL, and here let's put it along with /API/auth/login. And now in the try catch, here we'll put it constant response equal to await Axios URL. Here we'll put it, here we need to add the method is post, and data here, send the body. Okay, and here we'll return response dot data. In the catch, let's throw an error. Okay, so let's use this API in the login.js. At here on submit, first we'll call dispatch set loading, let's import that set loading, import from store features common, and let's put set loading here, set loading true. Set error, because if there is an error and user will try again sign in, then it will initialize the error. So it will again make the error empty. So we hide the error on screen. Here we go login API body is values, and here once we get the response in the login, so what we'll do here, once we get the response, we have to set it the token in the local storage, and then navigate to the page, to the dashboard page. Then we have to navigate to the home page. So here if there is an error, let's set it error invalid credentials. Also we can check the response code, then we can display the error, but because we are doing just checking it in local, so this is fine. We can display the error like this, and here we'll basically dispatch set loading false, and here let's add to do. So let's give it to do check response status. Now for setting the token in the local storage, let's create it one file here in the utils, and we'll call it JWT helper.js. Also we need one dependency, JWT decode, to decode the token to check if the token is valid or not. So but first here let's put it in the util files, save token. Let's give it local storage dot set item, and let's give it auth token Also let's add one more method, export the constant logout. So when user is logout, we do local storage dot clear. Also we need one more method here to check the token is valid or not. So for that we need one dependency. Let's install that dependency, JWT decode. And here we'll add one method, is token valid. So let's add it here, and this is the dependency that we require. So this is the dependencies that we have added, and now let's go back to the login page, and once we get that token, if response dot token, we'll call save token, and in the save token let's pass that token response dot token, and then we'll navigate to the home page. For that let's use one hook here, navigate, use navigate. And here we'll do navigate. So yeah, this is the token that we are saving it, and then navigate to the home page as we set it the error. So let's add this here, something went wrong. Here also we can check as if, yeah, here we can something went wrong. Let's start it. Also we need to start the backend server for this, so let's start the backend server also. Now let's try to hit the sign in. But before this we need to set the error. If we get an error here, so let's put it here like this, and also I'm going to add a link here. Now we'll put it here. If there is an error, give error, the class name, text, and text red, so we have added the paragraph message here for the error. Now let's add the loader also on the authentication wrapper that we have not added. So we'll copy the same that we added on shop application wrapper. Let's put it here. Use selector. This is for the spinner. Okay, now let's try now. So here we'll give test 1 2 3. These credentials are not correct. We don't have any user with this email, so it should display invalid credentials. Yeah, we are getting the invalid credentials. Now let's try with the correct user that we have in the DB. Or also we can try with the one that we have tested for the register, with the register credentials and then password. So yeah, this got work. Okay, so the credentials are working, and if we go to this application and the token that we are setting it here, that is auth token. So this is the auth token. Let's clear this. So now if we go back to the login screen here, we'll try this code reveal.app@gmail.com. First I'm trying with the wrong credential. Let's see what happened. It is saying invalid credential. Now we'll try with the correct password. Yes, this got work. Okay, so this is working. We can see the auth token at here. Okay, now once we log in and navigate to the this page at the home page, it has to call the API to get the user info. So let's now first work on the register page, and then we have to work on the Google sign in. Then we'll work on the login profile and adding the products into the cart. So I added the one link here to directly go to the register page if user doesn't have account and wants to sign up, and also added here the styling, giving the width to full. This will be looks better in mobile, and giving the width to 70% for the large screen, having width of greater than minimum width of 1024 pixel. So if we see now in the mobile, this will look better, and also this is in the center of the page, and once we go up, this is the desktop and other devices view. So now here next we'll start work on the register page. So for the register, I'm going to use the same code. Let's copy and paste it in the register page. So most of the things we require the same for register. Here we require Google sign-in, link, use callback, here we need to do few changes, so let's remove this. Use dispatch is required, use state also required, and use navigate also required. Okay, so on the register page, the first thing that will display is sign up text. Let's change it to, okay, let's come at here, we'll do it sign up. And here let's give some label also, label. We will give email address, let's give the class name, also we are making changes at here. Let's go to the register page. So in the register page, here we'll make it sign up, and also we need to give it here label. So let's give label here email address. So simply will class give label here, and let's put it because we have given reading px of 2, and let's change it to py of 4. Let's give it margin top of 2 here. Also let's add email for the password. And here we'll give the button sign up. So here we don't need to give it forward password. Let's remove this link. So this is for the email and password. And let's give it here autocomplete off, and on the form also let's give autocomplete off. Okay, so now let's change this to link message to here. Don't have an account to this. If user already have account and wants to log in, let's change this to login. So this is the sign up screen, and here we do have login screen. Now let's add some fields. That way even we can use it, that fields, but it is not required, the first last name. So we don't want to ask the user so much detail at the time of sign up. Let's have just the email and password. Once user sign up with email address, and then we'll ask user to add more details. So let's add here password, first name and last name, and for the username let's give it here email, because in the request body we are sending it as an email. And let's give it phone here. Also let's add one more state here. So basically when user will register it, once we get the response 200 from the server, we'll ask user to verify the code. So to display that verify screen here, we'll control with it in and with the state. Here we'll ask enable verify. Enable verify will keep the value boolean, and if it is true, then we'll display the verify page. And let's make it false by default. Okay, so this is the code that we have added for sign up. Then now let's go to the API folder. In the authentication, here let's have a method for the register. So the body and everything will be the URL and configuration will be the similar. We just need to put it here register. Rest everything will be remain same. And let's use this register on the sign up page or the register page. So let's call this register API values dot then response. Here it catch error, then finally. Now here we'll check if response dot code is 200. So here we'll set enable verify true. Else if response dot code 400, we'll set so if we do get error or the catch block, then we'll set it error, the invalid or email already exists. And then at here we'll finally we just make it false. And let's update all the dependencies. Navigate is not required. Let's remove it. So this is for register. Let's try first the email that is already exist in the DB. So it is saying invalid or email already exists. So the response code that we are getting, it's 400. Because of that we are displaying error here, invalid or email already exists. Now let's create first a verify code screen, then we'll try with the valid case, and then we'll validate it end to end. Now let's put up one more page here, a component, and we'll call this verify code.js. Okay, so in the verify code here, so we have email, then here will be have the body that we want to send it in the request, use state. Here we'll send it username and code. So for the username we'll send it email. Okay, so now here we are adding the value state. In that there is a username and code. So code will become when user will enter the code on the screen, and email will pass from the verify code component. So let's add here all other states that we needed. Let's copy the same states that we have added in the login and register page. So on submit also required, handle change also required. Let's add this in the verify code. Okay, this one we need to change it, so I'm removing it from here, and let's import this. Okay, now in this div let's add a paragraph. So in this paragraph we'll add the text. So let's add this text here. And we'll use this verify component in the register page. So at here let's add if enable verify and end verify code email values dot email. So this email verifier is set it from here. Let's make it true, so we'll be able to see this page. Now let's add one condition at here, if not enable verify and end so this is the verification code. So this is the verification code page. Let's style this. Some more styles we need to edit here. So this will put text large, and let's put one more paragraph where we'll ask user to enter the code, and here we'll put class name. And now at here we'll create a form, and let's give here on submit class name flex colon, let's give it gap of 4. So here we'll add input, type text, name, code, value, values dot code, max length 6-digit code, we need it. Let's put here on change, placeholder 6-digit code, now here let's add the styles, class name, height 48 pixel, and then we need to add a border. Also let's add padding. So here this is for the 6-digit code, the input. Let's put it required. Now here let's add a button. So button we can just copy it and put it here, the same button that we have added in the login and sign up. Then we'll have a link. So now then we'll have a error, and that also we'll copy it and put it at here. Okay, so now when we submit it, right, this code, then we need to display a success message to the user. So then user will we have to tell the user the registration is successful, and now we'll give the link to login. So let's add it here, that so to display the message, let's add here one more state that we'll call message, set message use state. Now if there is a message, then we'll display. If there is no message, we'll not display this form. And here if there is message, then we'll display paragraph. Let's put message here, last name, text. Okay, so now when we'll call the API here for verify code, let's add the verify code method here. So the same method we need it, and we'll just change it to this verify API, and along with here the URL should be verified. And now let's use this verify. So now here verify, let's send that values dot then response. Here we'll set message. Let's set this message. Here we'll set error. Here we'll set the verification that you entered is incorrect or expired. Let's put it at here. And in the finally block, we'll set the loader as false. Okay, so let's try this. We don't need navigate, let's remove it. Now in the register page, we'll make it by default false. This enable verify. So the server is running in the background, the backend server. Now let's try the register scenario. Here I'm going to give another email. This is my email. And here I'm going to give it the password. And now let's try the sign up. So this is saying invalid or email already exists. Let me open the PG admin here. So let's see the table, which user it has, and then we'll verify if there is a user that we were trying to register it. If it exists, then we need to delete the user from the table. This because we need a valid email to test the register case. We don't have that email, so the request that it was going for. So let's see the request that we need to send it. So it is not sending the correct email. At here, if you see, it is sending in the username. That is not correct. So let's fix this. Here we need to put it email. Let's try now. We'll send first the incorrect email. This is the email that already there in the DB. At least it is sending the it is sending the email in the correct field now. Now let's clean the DB. We have to add a condition. If we are getting email blank, then it should throw an error, but it is inserting it in the. So we'll make it. We'll make it in the entity. I think we have missed it in the entity. We are not making it in required true. So let's see the entity in the user. So for the email username, it is at here false, but we got that error. So this record was this data was there in the DB, but it is not in use. So let's clean the database, and we'll try with the email. So first we have to delete the from auth user authority table. So we have deleted the entries from the DB. Now let's try with the email, with the new email that we want to try with it. And let's put it here some password. Now this is the new user that we are trying to register it in the application. So yeah, we got the screen to verify the code. Let's see our code. So this is the code that we got from the email. Let's use this. and now we'll click on verify. So yeah, our email has been verified. Now we have to log in the account. So let's go and log in it. So the first, let's try to pass incorrect password, and let's see what correct password. So it is saying invalid credentials. Now let's see the correct let's go with the correct password. So yeah, we are able to successfully log in into the screen. So yeah, we successfully able to log in into the application. So this is about the registration and the username, password, authentication. Now next, let's add the Google authentication in our application. Okay, so now let's start with the Auth 2 authentication with the Google provider. So the dependency that we need for the Auth 2 authentication is, we have already added when we added all the other dependency. This is the Spring Boot Starter Auth 2 client. Now with this dependency we'll be able to access all that base classes. So at here, now we need to do first two things. First is we have to add all that application all that properties in the application properties file. So here we'll put Google sign in. So this is for here, we'll put for the Google sign in all that properties values. So let me add it here, the properties that we needed. So these all are that properties that we require to put it here. So here there is a Spring, even we can, if we can put these two, that also work for some of application that configured on Google sign in. So to keep the this all information, actually we have to create on the dashboard of on the console, but let's give it here also in the application properties. And these are the authorization URL, this is token URL, and this is for the info user info URL. So these all the things we have put it in application properties. Now let's go to the Google console. There we need to generate one client ID and client secret. Using this client ID and client secret, then only we can access that Google APIs. So let's create that. So I have one credential for this Showpiece application. So the URL on where we have to go to Google Cloud, console.cloud.google.com, and in the APIs. So first we have to go to here, enable API and services. Now let's search here Google Plus. So we have to go to this Google Plus API, and then if it is not enabled, then we have to make it enable here. So the project that you will create, for example, let's say if I go to some other project which does not have this Google Plus API enabled, so let's make it enable here. So once we enable this, we have to create one consent. So now here we need to create first Auth 2 consent screen. So here we need to check if it's an internal or external application that we are adding it for the Google authentication, because we have to go to external. So here we'll go with the external create. So here we'll give the name of that application. So for example, for our application it is Showpiece app, and then we need to provide here user support email. So let's give it email here. So if there is a logo, then we can give it logo here. And then here will be have app domain name. If there is any app domain name, that we can give it, but this is not mandatory, so leave it blank. Also this is not required. So here just we need to give it the developer contact information. So let's give here the email, and then save and continue. So now here we need to add the scopes. So for the scope, we need user email and profile. These two are required, so let's update it. Now then save and continue. And here we can add some test users. So if the application is not published on the Google Cloud Console, then we have to add few users to test the application. So for example, let's add a few users here that can access this Google authentication for this client. Then save and continue. So after that you will get a summary and go to dashboard. Here we can publish this app when we need to publish it. Then here we need to go to credential. Now here on the top you see there is a create credential. So now here we have to create auth client ID. Now select auth client ID and select the web application. Now these two are important here. Now we need to give a JavaScript origin, so the application from where we are calling this Google authentication, or let's say from the browser, right? So here we can just give localhost http localhost and let's give it 8080. Now because we are connecting this from the Spring Boot APIs, so let's give this so yeah, because this is we call from the Spring Boot application. So what we'll do, we'll call the application, call the Google authentication first from the browser to our backend application, and then backend application will take care to redirect to the Google authentication URLs. So here we need to give it localhost 8080, and then here we do need to give a callback URL. So let's give the callback URL like this: http localhost 8080. So basically we need to give this URL a default URL that we do have get in the base classes because the dependency that we have added. So for that it is login auth to code Google. You can also override this and you can also create a redirect. You can handle the redirect logic in your application, but this is something that we need to give it like the redirect URL like this, and then press and then hit create. So it will create a client for this. Then it will give you a client ID and client secret. So once you get that client ID and client secret, then go to the then we have to go to that our code. So once you get the client ID and client secret, go back to the code, and now when you will run, right, so there we have to put it in the VM arguments. So let's add that at here. So I'm stopping this application and let me add it here. Okay, so here I added that the arguments, the runtime arguments, and now this is just the setup we did for Google sign in Google. So this is just we did setup for the auth to client with the Google provider. Now to make it working, we need to change some configuration here, or we need to add new configurations for auth to client support. So let's change it here. Also for the when we created the JWT token and when we did the JWT token authentication record, we have not added the session management config here. So because we are doing both JWT and auth 2, so we need to give it here the .session management. So if required, session management, And let's give this session create policy. So session creation policy is session creation policy if required, and here we'll give auth to login, auth to login dot default success URL. Once this authentication got success, it will be a URL where it has to call back. So this will be the callback URL after the successful authentication success. Okay, so now here also we need to add dot request matcher, this URL, dot permit all. So this is the configuration that required for auth 2. Now here let's create a controller for the auth 2. And let's give this as REST controller. Okay, so let's give here at get mapping. Now here we are defining the URL from where we get the callback when the authentication success. Here public void callback and let's give here authentication principal auth to user, HTTP servlet response. This is we need it because we'll redirect this to client to the browser. Now here we'll check first the username, string username auth to user dot get attribute email. Now we'll check if this user is exist in the DB or not, right? So also let's create one service for the auth 2. And let's annotate this as service. Okay, now let's use this service. Now here we'll call user auth to service get user. So here we'll check if null double equal user, then we'll go to user equal to auth to user dot create user. So auth to the service dot create user, and here we'll provide the provider. So provider is Google. This is basically later if we need to add other providers like Facebook, so we can just add the provider in the DB. So to check it here, we do call now string token, because once user will enter into the application and do the Google sign in, then it will directly land to the application homepage. So it will not ask user to write to do the login and something. So for that we need a JWT token that must be return it from the call itself, the first call. So here we return this, so here we redirect this. So here we redirect the URL within token JSON helper. Also here we need JWT token helper. And then we do response dot redirect, send redirect, and here we'll pass the redirect URL. So this will be the URL for the redirect, and let's send it along with token. Now let's create these two user in the service class and create user. And here we need to call it auto-void user detail repository. Here we'll check. Here basically we'll return user detail repository find by email username, and here we'll create user equal to user dot builder, so first here we need to get the all that details like first name, email and everything. So I'm going to put it here because all that detail we'll get it from auth to user dot get attribute. So this is, we'll get it first name, last name, email, Then we'll set it first name, last name, email, provider, because email is already verified. It is a login from Google, so we'll mark it enable true. Then here we need to set the authority. So let's call here at AutoY, and we are going to add dependency private authority service. From the authority service, we'll get the authority for user authority. Let's use here authority service dot get user authority dot build, and here we'll return user detail repository dot save user. So this is for the auto controller, the success callback URL. Okay, so now let's integrate the Google Authentication API in our UI application. So for that we had created the button in components. Let's go to that button component, Google sign in. Now at here let's create a function that will be called on clicking on button handle click. So handle click use callback, and here we'll give window dot location dot href API base URL, and here let's give it auth 2 authorization. This is the default URL for the Google provider sign in. Okay, now let's give this at here on click. Now this will basically when we click on the button, it will change the URL to the URL that we have given it here in the window.location.href. And then once we get the success, right, so here let's add a route where we need to get the success on the handler. So let's add one more here, path auth 2 callback, and element. Now here the element that we need to give it auth. So let's create a type of component in the here in the component. Let's give new folder, or we can just create it in the pages. So let's create it here, auth 2 login. So here we don't need to give it anything here in the div. We just need to basically get the token from the URL. So let's first here put it navigate. Now in use effect, we'll basically check the params. Constant params equal to new URL search params window.location.href window. So here we need to give it window location dot search, and then at here we'll basically get the token params dot get. So here now we'll check if token. Save token. And then navigate. Else. Here else we'll navigate to V1 login. If there is no token or if there is any error in the authentication, we'll call it V1 login. So let's run this application. New terminal, npm start. So now let's go to that URL v1 login. So here we'll now call Google, continue with Google, and let's select the email, continue. So it is not able to find it. I think but we have something we have missing. So yeah, in the route.js we have not provided that auth to login callback. So yeah, this is, once we did this, this is able to land on this home page. So here we select the account, then continue. Now it get the token and it will land to here at least. And if we go to inspect in the application, we will see here the auth token. So this is the authentication, username and password authentication and Google. So this is the so this is all about the authentication. Username, we did the username and password authentication, and we have created the registration flow along with email verification, and also we did the Google authentication.